The next set of segments will be part of Chapter 5, distinguishing self as content from the self as context. All of these segments will have in common work on helping the client to be able to better observe and distinguish their thoughts and other ideas about themselves, such as roles or feelings that they might have, and to be able to distinguish this from a sense of self as more like the content or the context or the arena or the location where all of these things take place. Through all of these role plays, we'll be working with a client named Phil, who is a chronically depressed client who has come to therapy initially with a focus of really wanting to feel better about himself, and that he hopes that when he's able to feel better about himself, he'll be able to then move on and move forward with his life. This segment reflects Competency 1 in the Self as Context chapter, which refers to helping the client to distinguish the contents of consciousness from consciousness itself. And we're going to try to weave this in to the ongoing flow of the session. So Phil, we've been working on this issue of you wanting to feel better about yourself. I mean, you came into therapy saying that that was something that you were really working hard to do, and you've been working on that for a long time.
Seems like it's been all my life.
Yeah. And I actually wanted to try an exercise, if you're willing, that would be relevant to that, to see if you can, to see if it's sort of really possible to find peace, at that level of really being able to feel good about yourself. Would you willing to do an exercise with me?
At this point, I'm willing to try just about anything, to enjoy my life,
Okay.
That never impending doom, just that cloud, I can't seem to get away from it.
Yeah. Okay. So what I want you to do is I'm going to say just some phrases.
Okay.
And sort of about yourself, and I just want you to notice what sort of reaction you have in your head or in your mind as I say these things. Okay? So here's the first one. Okay? I have some good qualities.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm always going on the dark side.
Okay. That's good. So all I want you to do is just notice what comes up when I say one of these statements. Okay? So the next one is, I'm a pretty good person.
I think... Sorry, this is hard. I'm a good person, but I have too many problems.
Okay. So, good. Okay. So next one, I'm a perfect person. So what just showed up there? What was that reaction? Just your immediate reaction.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Okay. So there we went towards sort of the positive side, and you've been sort of working to have those more positive evaluations of yourself for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go the other way. I have some flaws. So just your immediate reaction, what was that? Was it like, yes? Yeah, I have some flaws.
Doesn't everybody?
Yeah, okay. There are a lot of problems with me.
But I'm genuine.
Okay. And how about this one? I am completely utterly worthless.
But I have a good heart.
Okay. So I just want you to, do you notice what happened there?
Yeah.
Like what happened was, as we started off with some statements that were sort of relatively neutral, and as we went out to one end or the other, either really positive or really negative sort of statements, it pulled for the opposite. It's like as we got more and more positive, immediately the next thing that came up was a negative thing. And as I had you think about things that were more negative, immediately reaction was something more positive.
It's almost like, wow.
So this clip with Phil was, again, meant to help Phil to be able to see self as content, in particular to help to discriminate that from his self as context, or his sense of self as the observer. And this was meant to be an act-consistent vignette. In this case, the focus was largely on helping the client to look at the way self as content tends to work, which is that it's difficult to find real peace at the level of self as content. And so what we did is we took some evaluations and brought them out to their extremes, and saw that when you're operating with self-evaluation, that as you become more positive, it tends to pull for negative, and as you think about more negative self-evaluations, it tends to pull for more positive. And so we're wanting to help him just kind of start to notice and experience the difficulty in ever finding real peace at this level. This is competency 2. The therapist utilizes exercises to help the client make contact with self as context and distinguish that from self as content. This role play will be with Phil, who at this point in therapy, let's say it's the 4th session, he's come to therapy saying he wants to improve his self-esteem, he wants to feel better about himself. And here we're going to see how the issue of distinguishing self as content is relevant to this situation.
I feel like a hamster in a cage. I mean, I get started to move forward, and then I just all of a sudden, I'm at a barrier. I hit a wall, and I can't go past that.
So let me have you sort of repeat that comment again, I hit a wall. And just slow down, and let me have you see if you can repeat that again.
I go forward and I hit a wall.
Okay. And as you do that, and as you say that, I'd just like you to take a moment and look sort of inward at your body and notice what sensations do you notice showing up there?
Fear.
Fear. And actually, I want you to maybe even close your eyes for a second and just, I want you to bring your attention down and into your body, and what do you notice there? Just directly sort of observe it.
Just a fear, frozen.
Okay.
I don't have the energy.
Okay. So feeling frozen and like you don't have the energy.
Right, and it's just
Okay.
crippled.
Okay. And as you do this, can you also notice that there's a you there that's noticing this sense of feeling frozen? It's not the same as this sense, but like you might only be able to catch it for a moment, but just notice that there's a you that's sort of behind your eyes and
Okay.
noticing this experience.
Yeah, I'm just there observing, and I'm somewhat, I guess, making judgment on myself.
Okay. And let me ask you for a second to just see if you can notice what thoughts show up when you're thinking about this topic of feeling like a rat, you know, on the wheel.
I don't know. There's nowhere to go. Why even bother?
Okay.
It's
Keep
the
going.
same. It's always been the same.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way of changing it.
Okay.
I only know the one pattern.
Okay. And then can you notice even just for a brief glimpse, that there's a you there that's having these thoughts, that's not the same as these thoughts.
Yeah. It's just an old pattern.
Yeah. And that thought, that it's just a pattern, can you sort of move that out in front of you, like if we could put it out a foot or two in front of you, and then notice that there's a you there that's having that thought, that it's an old pattern.
That you're in control. I'm the one choosing to make those patterns.
And that thought, I'm the one choosing to make this pattern. Can you notice that there's a you there that's having that thought? I don't want you to do anything with the thought, just simply like let it be there and notice. You know, notice it as if, almost as if it were like an object here, kind of floating by.
I'm not even aware that I do these things, and I'm not even consciously aware of it.
And that's a thought too. This segment was an act consistent segment, and basically what I attempted to do was to help the client to slow down and step out of the content where the client began the segment. He was very wrapped up in his complaint about his life, and I had him stop and just notice what was showing up in the moment. A common way of helping to develop this discrimination between the self as content and self as context is to help the client notice what's present, and then to help the client to notice the noticer, or to notice the part of them that's observing or having all these things. There was a piece in the segment where I made a bit of an error by shifting from self as context, which refers to the sense of self as I, here, now, and I began to refer to the client as you, there. And it would have been better to have had the client, to refer to the client's experience and to talk about the idea of him being here, the you, here, now, with the content being there. So I want you to imagine that this is like a chessboard that stretches in all directions. Right?
Okay.
And on the chessboard are various pieces. You know, just like in a chess game, you have the black pieces and you have the white pieces. And all the pieces on this board are your various experiences, your thoughts, your feelings, your memories, the sensations that you have. Those are all on this board. Right?
Okay.
And they go to war. And you've been kind of going to war, you know, with these pieces for quite a while now. It's like you have these white pieces that you really like, which are the thoughts like that you're a good person and that you're competent and that you can, you know, move forward in your life. And these are these other, you know, the black pieces are these other pieces, you know, that are like questioning yourself or doubting yourself or feeling sad or hopeless. And these pieces are kind of put to war. And you try and really get aligned with the white pieces, you know, that I'm good, I'm competent, and try to kill off the black pieces.
Okay.
And I want to propose something in this metaphor. I want to propose that actually in this metaphor, you're not the pieces at all, but you're more like the board, more like the context, or the arena where this war takes place. And what we need to do is find a way for you to be able to experience this place where you're the board.
But each piece on that board is Phil. I mean, the good, the bad, and the ugly. They all blend in.
Yeah, but, you know, you can't see it that way. What we need to do is you need to be able to see it a different way. That you're not those pieces, that you're actually the board. You need to see this differently.
I understand what you're saying, but if
So that piece had both act consistent and inconsistent elements. The initial presentation of the metaphor was a fairly act consistent brief introduction to the chessboard metaphor. Of course, it could be returned to and expanded upon later. At the inconsistent piece came at the end of the vignette when I attempted to convince the client that he needed to see these pieces in a different way. An alternative approach would have been to have taken the client's expression, his thought that, you know, all these pieces together are me, and a more act-consistent approach would have been to have perhaps picked up an object and said, and those thoughts you just expressed, those are on the board too.